Hello and welcome to the Force Friday Show, the weekly show from Movie Burner Entertainment, where we discuss Star Wars, be it canon, movie related, or just anything relating into Star Wars. It's been a little bit busier this week, Stephen, than last week, which was desperately quiet. What have we got first?
Could Star Wars The Last Jedi's Holdo return? Rian Johnson's Star Wars The Last Jedi features several stellar death scenes, but few are quite as jaw-dropping as the Holdo manoeuvre. Amilyn Holdo, played by Laura Dern, goes out in a blaze of glory, leaving many fans to wonder what the future could hold for the legacy of the one-off character. In fact, Laura Dern even seems interested in learning more about Holdo's story, opening up in a recent interview and admitting that she is intrigued by the possibilities to continue exploring Holdo's fate. Dern addressed the possibility of Holdo using an escape pod just before her Holdo manoeuvre and said, "This is the message to send to the world. I'm absolutely comfortable with that theory. I'm thrilled to be a hero, but I remember a long time ago someone saying, no one dies in space."
Well, Laura, hope your character did die in space. I'm sorry, I don't know much about this character, and I will briefly get into this in a minute, but come on, an escape pod. Good Lord, no. I don't want that to happen. We got into this last week, Stephen, when we talked about the theories about Luke Skywalker and how it would completely destroy The Last Jedi as a film. The impact it had, emotionally and otherwise in some moments, it was just to completely destroy it, rip the heart out of that film. There'd be no point going and watching it. I mean, that's one of the best moments in the film, when she jumps to hyperspace, the moment of silence, just the sacrifice she makes. To take that and retcon it and say she jumped out in a escape pod right before it, it'd completely destroy it. So no, I don't want to see that happening. Absolutely not. And it's a shame because, as I says, I don't mind Laura Dern. I think she's a great actress. She's had a stellar career. She's been in umpteen franchises. She's proven herself. And she does seem a genuine and sincere person. So I'm not completely against her coming back and portraying the character again, but not in the current timeline. It could maybe happen in a prequel, or maybe she could pop up in the Spinoff and Vice films, the series of films they're doing. Maybe they might jump through a wide period of time like The Lost Stars, Claudia Gray book, so you could start in the prequels and work your way all the way up. Maybe she could pop up in a supporting role in that, but God no, not in this timeline. That would destroy The Last Jedi.
Now, going back to December, John, as you recall, we both went to see the film, and that was one of the characters that really changed the way we thought about her because of that scene. Because I remember when we came out of the theatre, you saying, I hated that character, then I loved the character, and I was exactly the same. And she said, Laura Dern, a fantastic actress. I've seen her in numerous films. She seemed to enjoy the whole promotion of the film as well. She was great interactions with Oscar Isaac, Mark Hamill, etc. It seems to be a bit of fan pressure. The fans of the character would like to see some kind of canon where the character's written that she jumped into one of the escape pods and jetted off into space just before the collision. I don't like to see that. I think it takes away the character's legacy. And also I think it would portray her as a coward, which you don't want to see. In real world, I think that the character would have survived if the filmmakers knew of the fate of Carrie Fisher, because I think the character could have carried on, that sort of role into the next film, Episode 9. Unfortunately not. We don't know our own fate anyway, so it's just unfortunate. But I did get that feeling with the character that she had an agenda. She wasn't a supporter of Leia, because I remember we watched the Star Wars base shows on YouTube, where there was a lot of speculation that there was a bit of friction between Holdo and Leia, that Holdo knew about Leia's legacy, her father, etc., and she was going to use that politically against her, all that kind of thing. That was the buzz all last year. It didn't turn out that way. It turned out that she was a very sincere character, a great supporter of General Leia, and also a fan of Poe Dameron as well, although it didn't, not to his face, she never showed it, but she certainly was an admirer of him.
Yeah, and I think Poe will now take on that role that you just discussed, Stephen, in place of Carrie Fisher's Leia. Certainly that's the way it was going in the film anyway. Leia kind of says, "Why are you looking at me?" He's leading, follow him. So that was kind of quite a symbolic moment where she's handing over to Poe, which is good because I love Oscar Isaac. I think he's a great actor, and I love that character who's could have been killed off in The Force Awakens, and that would have been absolutely criminal. But yeah, I mean, I agree, Stephen, that it probably is from fan pressure. I want to see this character get thrust into the canon more, and certainly based on what I've read about the character, this is one of the Claudia Gray books I've not read. Leia, Princess of Alderaan. I've read Bloodline and I've read Lost Star. She's a phenomenal writer. Really gets Star Wars, and in fact she gets Leia. So certainly her backstory's fleshed out in this book. The relationship she had with Leia. I think they met on Alderaan on a pathfinding lesson, which is kind of like an orienteering type thing that people in Alderaan would do. And then it goes on to say in this article I was reading, because I've not read the book, that they continued their friendship all the way through. They met in the Pokerus system or something it's called, and that's when Holdo discovered Leia's role and relationship with the Resistance, and their friendship continued on from there. Certainly Holdo's whole backstory looks really interesting. It doesn't really fit the character we see in The Last Jedi. I know that was quite a bit of criticism that she got, that Rian Johnson and the writers got, that they kind of had discarded the whole feeling, personality of the character fleshed out in the book. Certainly her homeworld, Gatalenta, was very interesting. It was a kind of a hippie, meditating sort of a world where, in fact, Luke Skywalker travelled to first when he was looking to establish his Jedi Academy. So she's got a very interesting backstory. I can see why some people would want to see her have a meteor role and maybe pop back up again, but you just can't do it in this timeline. It has to be a prequel type thing, or maybe even, as I says, popping up in one of either the Rian Johnson, whatever he's doing with it, trilogy, or the Weiss and Spinoff series of films. They could maybe pop up, or maybe even a standalone, I don't know.
There is plenty of room, John, to continue exploring the life of this character, whether that be through early years, you know, as a politician or a leader or whatever. You know, we saw it in Rogue One, you know, last year. The franchise could return to a previous era. It just remains to be seen. But I don't like the idea that you're going to take that moment away from the character by having her jet off in an escape pod or whatever. No, don't do that. As you said last week, you're taking away those moments from a film that such mixed feelings to it. You don't take away those moments or the film becomes weaker. Yeah.
And just one final thing, Stephen. I know you were looking into the behind the scenes footage in the home release. Did that tweet that Mark Hamill, was that confirmed that they had a deleted scene? Did that pop up in the home release? Mark Hamill was heavily hinting that he had a scene originally with Holdo in The Last Jedi. I wonder if that popped up or whether that's just been swept under the carpet.
I've not seen that one, John. As I said last week, you know, I'm trying my best to hold off until the Blu-ray release, but I can't help myself sometimes when I see, you know, one of the thumbnails coming up with Mark Hamill. I saw the one where he broke down, was doing the scene. I think it was the Jedi Temple scene. R2 was next to him. Yeah, it was that one. Very much method acting from Mr. Hamill there, I think. He was really immersed in the role, so much so Rian Johnson had to go over and console him. But I haven't seen that one. That'd be quite interesting, actually. But if there was such a scene filmed, John, I don't think it's going to pop up in the Blu-ray. I think that would have been, you know, one of the ones that was out and about on social media, would have been mentioned at some point. If it is in the can, it's not to say that it could be released somewhere down the line, very much similar to the Toshi Station scenes that were in A New Hope, which came out again, I think it was about the turn of the millennium. These were released on a DVD, so you never know.
Yeah, they were terrible, Stephen. But just moving on to the next topic, Frank Oz stated in an article that Yoda would need to be a CGI character in future spin-off films. He says in a quote that, believe me, that was way too difficult for me. I rehearse a long time just to do one line of dialogue. It would have to be CGI. It's far, far too difficult because I'm doing it with 3 other people, so it's 4 people and you just can't wing it. You've got to study every single word with 4 people. I mean, this is a very, very understandable position from Frank Oz, and I didn't know it was 3-4 people manoeuvring the character about. Yeah,
I was speaking to IGN, I think it was, John. Oz reflected on the many years he put into the legacy of Yoda, but it didn't sound quite so convinced that he could pull the strings on an anthology movie. Now, just going back, I think the last time that Frank Oz used a practical puppet was in The Phantom Menace, because I think for The Last Jedi certainly was practical, but I think there was CGI in there as well. that could be the way forward for the trickier scenes, if you like, for a Yoda. I don't want to see a Yoda standalone. What am I talking about? I just don't want to see it. Very much like what I was talking about earlier about Han Solos and such stuff. I don't really need to see a back story to Yoda. I know everything I need to know about the character and where he came from, and you know where he ended up. It's very much. I mean, where do you draw the line? Qui-Gon, Jinn, the Star Wars story. You need to draw a line. He's one of those characters that, very much like Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original trilogy, he was a supporting character. He was used in the best possible way as a mentor, and Yoda was very much that for Luke Skywalker as well. I'm not interested in seeing any standalone film. If they do go down that road, then I think a mixture of computer-generated imagery and practical is the best way forward.
Yeah, there probably was a bit of CG in there, Stephen, because certainly the Force Ghost stuff, that had to have been CG'd. There definitely was puppet use in there as well, because I read an interesting article where he says he didn't want or like anybody touching the puppet he actually used. He had a stand-in, which Rian Johnson was allowed to put his hand in and touch, but he doesn't want anybody touching it. The article then goes on to say, in a quote, "It's like if you're a golfer, you don't want other people to use your clubs." Inside that character is very special to me. That's a bit dodgy. If you say that in the wrong way, that may sound way inappropriate. He goes on to say, the challenge is great. It's 4 of us doing one character, and we have to rehearse 1 line of dialogue. It may take us 3 days. The specificity is incredible. What a tongue twister that is. I've never said that word in my life. I didn't know it existed until then. So certainly there was a puppet involved. I don't think there's going to be going forward if he does pop up again. I would like to see him pop up in episode 9 alongside Force Ghost Luke. Just seeing those two in their antics, zapping trees with lightning and all the rest of it, that would be glorious. Certainly we need someone to be guiding Rey in her quest to rear a new generation of Jedi. I've seen it mentioned on another Star Wars show, which is what I'm going to call it, that they wouldn't want to see this singular Jedi going forward, You're the Last Hope, ending another trilogy and getting into episode 9 and leaving it. Leaving episode 9, you need to have a whole new generation of Jedi, much like they did in the prequel, rebuilding it. And I want to see Yoda having a leading position alongside Luke and Rey, rearing these Jedi. Certainly I agree with you about the standalone. I would be completely against that. I cringe every time I see it on Facebook and stuff like that, when you've got, which standalone would you like, and you see the Yoda one, people going for it. I'm like, no, it's the same with Vader. I don't want to see anything about this character. We don't even know the race, the species name, and that's the way it should be. It should be secretive. That adds much more to the character than seeing every intricate little detail. It's the same with Han Solo, but certainly you can get away with it with Han because of all the other side characters you could throw in there and just interesting things. But Yoda, I don't want to see a 20-year-old Yoda twirling about in his homeworld, no. But what I would like to see, which could be interesting if they are going to go down the whole thrusting them into a standalone, is if they are dead set and doing a Obi-Wan standalone, there's a possibility it could pop up in an Obi-Wan standalone alongside Obi-Wan. They could have been communicating, maybe even force FaceTime. Now that's been established. Who knows, that might have been about in the original trilogy, we just didn't get to see it. So maybe Obi-Wan was calling his old buddy in Dagobah, maybe even journeyed to Dagobah and met Yoda before we get to meet Luke and he goes and sees it. That'd be amazing, seeing a prequel version of Dagobah and a very much sane, non-eccentric Yoda kicking about, not eating lamb stew with his full bearings. That'd be something intriguing. Maybe he goes and sees Vader as well, because he seems to know a lot about Vader in The Empire Strikes Back, and yet he never actually met Vader when he was full Vader. The last time he saw him, it was in the security tapes in the Jedi Temple. So the limits are endless. But certainly, I can't argue with Frank Oz wanting to go CG heavy. The guy's 73 now, and as we've seen in the Dagobah scenes in the original films, you've got a whole compartment underneath the set, and he has to get into it to manoeuvre and do all this stuff, and all these other guys involved. Guy's too old for that now. Completely agree with what he's wanting to do, and yeah, I mean, I just want to see him back because he's such an iconic guy.
Maybe we'll see a Farley Brothers, Yoda and Yaddle road movie, who knows? I think that would certainly work. But all seriousness, he's certainly a character that holds a place in a lot of Star Wars fans' hearts. I saw the clip. here I go again. I said I was going to stay away from it. But here's another one I saw from the extras on the Blu-ray on YouTube was the scene. I don't know if you saw this, John. This was Frank Oz operating Yoda, and Mark Hamill was sitting just below him, overcome with emotion.
Yeah.
Is an understatement. It shows the relationship that Hamill had with the character, not Frank Oz, but the actual character.
Yeah.
I'm sure him and Frank Oz are good buddies, but in a time back in 1980 when Harrison Ford was interacting with Carrie Fisher and Anthony Daniels, Mark Hamill was isolated on a set that replicated a swampy forest with a frog-like puppet and became very attached to him, as you saw from the clip on YouTube.
Yeah, he was. It was very emotional, Stephen. You can see it was getting to him. Obviously, this is a character he's synonymous with, and he's working alongside another character which is absolutely synonymous with him. First time I think of Yoda is him on Mark Hamill's back in that training montage on Dagobah. So yeah, I mean, I can completely understand that. Talking about him and Frank Oz, he actually did a live conversation with Frank Oz for Vanity Fair. It was filmed. I'm hoping that's popped up on YouTube because I certainly want to see those two. I love watching Mark Hamill speak at length, just the crazy stories he goes into and all of that. So that's something I'm very much interested in having a little look at, and I'll pop on and watch that when I can. But one final thing I'm going to add, Stephen, before I let you back in, is that Frankie Boy is not too happy with Disney and the handling of puppets. I think they bought the rights to the Muppets, and he says they just don't get it. So maybe this plays into the push for a CG version of the character.
Just one last thing on Frank Oz. I actually forgot he is quite an established director as well. First film I saw him direct was back in 1988 with Steve Martin and Michael Caine in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Don't know if you saw that, John. An amazing film. I'm not the biggest Steve Martin fan by any means, but
Rings a bell.
him and Michael Caine in this film are absolutely amazing. And it was another one, he'd be reunited with Steve Martin again in 1999 with Eddie Murphy's Bowfinger as well. I didn't know he directed that. 2001's The Score. This is a film very underrated, I felt. Yeah. I think it was Marlon Brando's last appearance in a film. This was Edward Norton and Robert De Niro.
That was a fantastic film.
It was a kind of heist, wasn't it? It was a really good, a stitch-up job, wasn't it? It was a really good film.
The ending was amazing.
And I know he did The Stepford Wives with Nicole Kidman as well. So he's an established director. As you said, he's, I don't mean to sound disrespectful here, but he is getting on very much like John Williams. He's coming to that point in his life where he really doesn't have to work, if you like. He's had an amazing career. He's just as famous for the voice of Miss Piggy in the Muppet Show as he is with Yoda. He's it comes across as such a nice guy as well, very down to earth. He's had a great relationship over the years with the Star Wars actors and the filmmakers as well. I hope we've not seen the last of him appearing as Yoda. Whether that be another cameo in Episode 9 remains to be seen. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next.
Yeah, Stephen, and just moving on to the final topic of the Force Friday show. I say topic, it's kind of an amalgamation of different topics just revolving around Solo, a Star Wars story. There's been a lot of news released on this, just various little tidbits which we're going to have a quick discussion about. The main antagonist in the film has been revealed as Enthys Nest. I hope I've pronounced that right. Apparently this is playing back to an old Legends story from the old canon. And he's basically the leader of a swoop bike gang, which kind of reminds me of the old Republic games where there was a swoop bike gang. I believe it was anyway. And apparently the character of Kira, played by Emilia Clarke, has some sort of a connection with them, and she changes sides. And there's a chase scene in Solo, which I think's been established, with her and Han Solo being chased in a land speeder. So this seems to play into it, and it's that cool character in the standoff in the trailer. He's the leader of a Cloud Rider gang, so I don't know what you make of that, Stephen. There's been a whole other host of information, new planets getting revealed, and Lord knows what else. There's a lot of information being dropped out of this film.
Yeah, I saw the one with the new planets, John. I didn't know about that one. But the thing about it, I mean, it seems to be part of every Star Wars movie anyway, that, you know, a new planet crops up. And I believe that the planet is called Vandor, if I'm pronouncing it right, and this is where apparently some train heist is going to take place with Chewie and Han Solo. But it's very similar to, you know, The Force Awakens, where we're introduced to Jakku in The Last Jedi, Act 2, and, well, Act 2 was kind of introduced in the tail end of The Force Awakens, but we also got Crate as well, which is such an iconic setting now. I'd probably put it up there with Hoth, just for its visuals, that red mist. And it'll be interesting to see what the sort of terrain is for this heist. I think it's probably, it could be the mountains that we saw in the trailer.
Yeah.
You know, and it'll be some kind of Star Wars version of a train, probably at the foot of those mountains, no doubt. Very similar. It'll probably remind you of Canada, something like that, you know, one of those sort of terrains. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. I've not really seen too much of the news coming out about Solo this week, John, just what you've been talking to me about. One thing that did stand out to me in regards to the promotional poster, which I'll let you in with your views on that in a little moment. My views is what they've done is, you know, in regards to the recent shootings over in the US, they removed one of the most famous poses in movie history, which was created by Harrison Ford in A New Hope, in the hangar. That pose where he's pointing his gun at the stormtroopers, and it's such a iconic pose that has been recreated for the Han Solo movie, and it's been deconstructed and replaced with, I can't remember, probably putting his hands on his hips or something, I don't know, but it reminds me of, I don't know if you remember this special edition that came out of E.T., where the FBI agents were, in the original release, were carrying shotguns, and they were replaced by walkie-talkies very unconvincingly. Listen, real world movie, I know the difference, and so should every sane person on this planet.
Yeah, Stephen, they're having an absolute mare with the whole poster shenanigans. Obviously, a couple of weeks back, they get done for plagiarism, where they completely stole a guy's posters. I think it was like Funk and all of that, and they totally nicked them, and then they had to apologise and take them down, and now this nonsense with the gun. Taking the gun off. It's a fictional character in a fictional universe in a film. Stop pandering to these people, man, honestly. We all are anti-gun. Nobody wants to see people getting shot when they're at school. Nobody wants to see that, but Jesus Christ, you can separate fiction from reality, and this is fiction. It was the same with Death Wish as well. I got to see Death Wish a couple of days ago, and there's been a big whole hysteria over that film and the use of guns and portraying it and glorifying guns. It's just utter nonsense. This is escapism. You go to watch these films, you don't take them serious. It doesn't influence people into going and committing these terrible crimes, so just lay off it, man, honestly. And the pose itself, as you say, it's utterly iconic. It's an iconic pose with him pointing with his blaster, and an even more iconic blaster. And just to see him taking that off, I just think it's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. But one final little thing, Stephen, I'll dive into before we finish up, is the news about an actor, an undercover actor. They were speaking to Vulture, and they were going in depth on the whole controversy over reshoots and production trouble and stuff like that. They have confirmed that the original Lord and Miller script has been followed. There's not been any changes. That Alden Ehrenreich did indeed need a acting coach, although it wasn't as serious as was being portrayed before. It was just to kind of relax him and maybe get him closer to Disney's vision of what they wanted him to kind of portray the character like. They said that once this acting coach was on the set, he relaxed and he gave a much better performance. It also says that the presence of Ron Howard made everybody relaxed and it relieved some of the tension and brought the mood back up. So this was very interesting, Stephen. It was an interesting article. They were delving in and all sorts of things, saying that it was using much of the same sets and that Lord and Miller's fingerprints are still all over the film.
I would expect that, John. You know, I think Ron Howard coming in and steadying the ship was a masterstroke. You know, the film is in such disarray. You know, to bring someone like him in and ground it, and believe that he is getting full directorial credit for the film. I think Lord and Miller are going to be down as producers.
Yeah.
But think we all expected that anyway. And, you know, just reading this quote here, I'm not sure where the source is, John. Was it vulture.com?
Yeah, vulture.com, yeah.
They said Howard got the job done in no more than 2 or 3 takes. Phil and Chris are good directors, but they weren't prepared for Star Wars, says our source. After the 25th take, the actors are looking at each other like, this is getting weird. Lord and Miller seemed a bit out of control. They definitely felt the pressure with one of these movies. There are so many people on top of you all the time. The first assistant director was really experienced and had to step in to help them direct a lot of the scenes. Joy Fahey, a spokesperson for Lord and Miller. This information is completely inaccurate, but declined to cite specific inaccuracies. She also declined to make the directors available for an interview.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally see this being the case. Certainly their style seems to be more spontaneous. They like to get more ad-libbed type performances where they're just on the spot, kind of making it up as they go along, if you'd like. And Ron Howard was more of a traditional, and certainly with Lawrence Kasdan and penning the script, he would want this character to be true to his script. He'd want them to be saying the words that he put on the paper, and he wouldn't be accepting this kind of going off the beaten track with the script. So I can totally believe that this was the case, regardless of what the spokesperson for Miller and Lord and Miller has said. But I think the calming influence of Ron Howard will be felt in this film. It's clear from the trailers that he's done a miracle job getting this film together. Certainly I think he's working in Burbank at the minute in post-production, trying to get the film finished in time for the May release. And I think this film will just about pull it together and be something of a success. I don't think it will flop like many people have suggested. I think it will break even and some, and Disney will push on and continue releasing all their various different films going forward. And I'm very, very excited about this film. But anyway, guys, that is us for this week's episode of the Force Friday show. We thank you again for listening, and we'll be back next week. Remember, guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then do subscribe to us on YouTube at Movie Burner Entertainment and on iTunes and Google Play at the Movie Burner Podcast, whilst also giving us a little follow on Facebook and Twitter at Movie Burners. You can also catch up with all the latest reviews we're putting out on the Movie Burner blog at movieburnerintertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.